It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to introduce our distinguished guest speaker, Dr.Larissa Al-Uar. Dr. Al-Uar's first step into professional life was graduating from the School of Dentistry at the University of Jordan in 1993, yet she had another road to follow. Need and passion led Dr. Al-Uar to co-found with a group of mothers Tobacco-Free Jordan, TFJ, in 2011. Dr. Al-Uar holds awareness sessions for all age groups on tobacco control. In 2018, she became a Tobacco Dependency Treatment Specialist to adjunct the talk with practical quitting advice. Knowledge and outspokenness led her to be chosen to be the civil society's representative on the government's tobacco regulators committee. Recently, Dr. Al-Uar completed the graduate certificate on global tobacco control from Johns Hopkins and is currently attending its scholar leadership program until June 2023. Today, Dr. Al-Uar will speak about advocacy path to impactful leadership, no for smoking. Welcome, Dr. Larissa.
Thank you, Dr. Maisa, for your kind introduction. Hello, everybody. I'll talk today like Dr. Maisa. We'll go back to university. So I'm very honored to be here with a group of distinguished colleagues to talk about my personal experience on tobacco control in Jordan. I think all of us can relate to this one specific moment in our lives where we feel that things have suddenly changed. And probably this one moment in my life was when I was 9 years old, and at home we received this phone call from the hospital that my father had a heart attack. God was kind to us on that day because my father was actually already in the operating room, but as a physician performing an operation when he had this heart attack. And help was literally milliseconds away. So my father had an open heart surgery and went to rehab, which was the norm at that time. We were in Germany, and he left for a couple of months to a rehab facility. When he came back as a child, I noticed that he quit smoking. And that was probably the moment where I subconsciously linked cigarettes and tobacco use to death and disease. My parents quit smoking. We moved back to Jordan. And the first thing that my father did, he went back to smoking. And I remember very clearly asking him why he did that. And his reply was, whether you're a smoker or non-smoker in Jordan, it's the same. You're exposed to secondhand smoke all day long. And this coming from a physician who had a heart attack and whose time was basically either at the clinic or at the hospital, it just showed how much smoking was there between all the community, doctors, physicians, nurses, everybody was smoking, so it was there everywhere. Later on in university, my colleagues might remember, I was one of those who was always fighting and asking for smoke-free facilities. I mean, the School of Medicine, the cafeteria was smoke-infested, the hospital was smoke-infested. So again, I was one of those who was always at the dean's office complaining about secondhand smoke exposure and smoking at the facilities. Then I graduated, I started my own clinic, I got married to a non-smoker. And the first rule that I established was having a smoke-free house. And this was at a time where people didn't really accept being told not to smoke at somebody's house. And asking elderlies to go to the balcony to smoke wasn't looked at favorably. But I insisted, and I wanted to protect my family and my children from the harms of secondhand smoke. I'm saying all this because I really believe in order to be a leader or in order to get a message out, you have to walk the talk. You can't just say it and do something completely different. And this is very important for people who work in the medical profession. For me, a doctor loses credibility if he asks his patient to do something that he himself is not following. Then we moved to a further step. What happened was at a birthday party, I was there with my 3-year-old daughter, and one lady just lit up a cigarette. And of course, we had a fight, and the owner of the facility had to step in, and the lady was asked to move outside and smoke a cigarette outside the facility. That very same day, Zaina, my friend who was with us at that birthday party, you can see her here wearing the blue shirt, started a page on Facebook called Women Against Indoor Smoking in Jordan. And I was the first one to join. From this, we moved forwards. We had a meeting. We were actually invited by a hotel owner. He gave us all the facilities in order to hold a meeting between complete strangers who just had one goal. This was to protect our children from the exposure to secondhand smoke. Of course, once you have a cause, you need to find a mission. The mission needs to have a goal. The goal itself has to be very clear and has to be shared by all the participants that are taking place. So our goal was to protect our children from secondhand smoke and prevent them from becoming smokers. So in order to achieve your goals, you need to educate yourself. The first thing that we did was to see what is there. What do we know about smoking in Jordan? And it struck us, and it was a surprise that we found we do actually have a law, which was something we didn't know about. And I found out the majority had no clue that there was a law that existed since 2008, that Jordan had signed and ratified the Framework Convention for Tobacco Control in 2004-2005, respectively. And the law was out there, and the law protects us from the exposure to secondhand smoke. So the first thing that we decided to do was to advocate for the law. But we wanted to do it in a different way. Part of being engaging to the others and to get your message out, you have to be innovative. Tobacco control and talking about cigarette smoking is usually something that is associated with doctors telling us about cancer and heart disease. We wanted to show people that it is cool, that it is fresh, that you can have fun without being exposed to secondhand smoke, that smoking isn't essential to enjoy yourself. And we engaged children. We had a family day with literally zero money that we had no funding, no official funding. That's what I wanted to say. We had just passion, and we had people believe in us. So we had so many in-kind donations and even monetary donations that made us able to print t-shirts and give them out, to have billboards, to get art material, and had a fun day with no entrance fees, where the whole family could enjoy itself. So again, in order to talk to the decision makers and in order to get your message out, even on the media, you need to know facts. And this is very important. So we, again, and I always keep saying I and me, because tobacco-free Jordan is such a part of me that I cannot really find the distinguishing line. We are just one unity by now. So we educated ourselves on the numbers in Jordan. If you look at the Global Youth Tobacco Survey, and this one is old, from 2014, we see the large numbers of youth that are smoking. 33.9% of boys are smokers. This is the age group 13 to 15. The high exposure to secondhand smoke, whether at home or at public places, and the ease that they can buy cigarettes. This is something that is really scary. I mean, they just go and buy from the shop and they are sold. And this is something that we wanted to change. Again, these are numbers, national numbers from the SEP survey that was taken in 2019. Here again, we see the high number of smokers when we have 66% of men and 15.9% smoke cigarettes and 15.9% smoke e-cigarettes. And that at a time where e-cigarettes were still illegal in Jordan. This is scary. When you see how high the exposure to secondhand smoke is, 80%, and we're talking in 2022. Okay, the numbers are from 2019. So we're talking about a time where secondhand smoke exposure is minimal in all the developed countries where laws are implemented. Again, if we look here at those numbers here, we see that the younger age groups, the number of smokers, the percentage of smokers is higher in the age group from 18 to 44 than that from 45 to 69. And that use of shisha is higher among females than males. Starting to smoke is younger. The 18 to 44 age group, they start at a younger age, both males and females. As well, as the amount of cigarettes consumed by the smokers is higher in the younger age group. And these are all scary numbers. These are facts that we need to know. Then, as a leader in tobacco control, I need to find always what is the entrance point? How do I talk to different people? How do I build my team? How do I educate them? How do I empower them to use the knowledge that they have? How do I get my knowledge out? If I tell people that we have 9,000 people dying every day, like here in the investment case study, but they will not resonate with it. But if I tell them that we have 24 houses of Gaza opening daily in Jordan because of tobacco use, that about 17% of those who died, they never smoked. They were just exposed to secondhand smoke. This resonates with people. If I want to talk to decision makers, to politicians, they are more concerned about money. We keep on hearing how important tobacco is for our economy. But if we find out that our income from the tobacco industry is 899 million Jordanian dinars in 2015, but we spent 1.6 billion Jordanian dinars with a net loss of 1 billion US dollars just on healthcare, direct and indirect, because of tobacco use, then we would stop and think. This is very important. We need to find different ways in order to talk to people with their mindset. We need to understand them, to understand their needs. What do they need to hear? How can I convince him to do something for me unless I give him the facts and make them see things from my perspective as well? I need to listen to the policymaker as well so that he can listen to me. I can convince him now when I tell him that for every Jordanian dinar spent in tobacco control, I will get a 247 averted Jordanian dinars by 23. I need to put things into perspective, and doing this helps me get my message out. It is not only about raising awareness. They keep telling us raise awareness. Yes, I raise awareness. I go to schools, I go to other NGOs, I talk to women from different socioeconomic classes. It is very important to listen to them as well and learn use empathy when talking to them, because their problems with the tobacco is quite different than other socioeconomic classes. But again, for me, it's very important to show positive enforcement of the law, to tell people it is cool, it is fun, you can have fun if you're a non-smoker. One of the important things in tobacco control and working in it is forming partnerships, to have teams, and they have to be very diverse. I mean, whether it's the IFMSA here, which we partnered with for the SCOF Congress, or its media, Greater Amman Municipality, even a group of athletes and non-smokers, actually former smokers who became, some of them former smokers who became marathon runners today. Here, amazingly, with this campaign in football, it was the FIFA itself that we collaborated with, and we had our billboard campaign outside to encourage smoke-free sports facilities. These are partnerships and teams that need to be nourished and built. One thing that is very important is always to think outside of the box, use unconventional ways. For example, here we went to the streets having billboard campaigns, and even a bus running around with an anti-tobacco message on the streets was something that nobody did before us in Jordan. Also, we had the courage to have a sit down in front of the parliament when the parliament decided to decrease the prices of cigarettes in Jordan. As mothers and children, we gathered in front of the parliament and we demonstrated. This is community mobilizing. People came, we didn't know all of them. We had even an MP, you can see him here in the back talking to the press, talking about the importance of not reducing the prices and protecting our children. So community mobilizing is, I think, a very, very important part of leadership, because no small group of people can actually do the change. And community mobilizing does not mean only getting the adults involved. A very integral part of our movement is working with children. When we work with children, we raise advocates. They will know the right from wrong. We give them the tools to say no to the tobacco industry, because we all know how strongly this industry targets the youth to compensate for the 8 million people it kills annually. It will need new smokers. Engaging the youth. One of the most important things that we as Tobacco-Free Jordan see is to engage the youth in our programs. The tobacco industry kills 8 million people every year, and it needs to compensate those people it loses. And the best way to compensate it is to attract the youth and make them new smokers. They will smoke for a very long time. So therefore, we really focus on engaging the youth and make them our advocates, they mobilize the community. They're the ones who go home then and tell their parents not to smoke indoors. They are the ones who will demand to go to smoke-free facilities. And therefore, we look at the youth as our partners in all the activities that we do. So you can see that these children, when they attend our awareness sessions, they themselves move and do their own sessions. Here we have this little girl here. She actually did a whole campaign at the school. She was still KG2. We talk to children about things that interest them. They will not be interested about cancer and death and disease, but they're very much interested on how the tobacco litter affects their environment, how the fish is affected, how the bird is affected when they eat a cigarette butt. Therefore, they clean up the parks and they clean up the gardens, and they see, they smell, they noticed how things were before and how things are after they clean them. Learning new skills it's something very important, I think. I mean, myself, I was one of those people who would be very nervous about reading a paragraph in class at school. And now today, I'm a public speaker. I learned how to talk about what interests me, how to listen to other people in order to give them the answer that they need to hear. I train teachers on how to talk about tobacco. I talk to people who have been in tobacco control for ages and discuss with them, bring new perspective myself and learn from their perspective, see what worked for them and learn from that. This is very important. In order to be a leader, leadership isn't about one person being in the top and everybody following. It is just forming a community and empowering that community, learning and teaching at the same time. So this is something that I think is very important. And be bold. I think if one thing this work taught me is just be bold. I mean, we demanded to go to the parliament and to see parliamentarians, and actually it paid off with the upper house of parliament that the upper house of parliament is a smoke-free. I'm very sad to say this, the lower house of parliament still smokes, but the upper house of parliament, they listened to us and they took us to the head of the parliament. I mean, I have to thank Dr. Yassin Husban and Dr. Al-Uar who implemented this. And we are also bold with our campaigns. For example, we have this Naim Mudakhin campaign. When we had it, we wanted to have it on the street. It was refused, but we had it on Facebook. People were engaged with it. When we had just, this teaser campaign, and people were just wondering what is happening. And so when we then had Naim Mudakhin, people were really affected by it. So please be bold when you have a campaign. Use social media. Social media interaction, it helped us a lot. Lalit Tadkhin, our NGO now, has 1.3 million followers from the whole Arabic world. We engage with people and messengers. People are sharing their stories, they're finding support. This way, we're just starting a dialogue, and we can reach not only one country, but we can reach a whole community. One thing that is very, very important that I think that we always forget about is that we don't celebrate our achievements. Whether it is our achievements as a community, or it is the achievements of those who helped us, who supported us, or who did something themselves. Here we have, for example, we had a drawing competition, and we recognized the kids that won, celebrating 5 years. The celebration itself here was not, the achievement was not being 5 years as Tobacco-Free Jordan, but being able to have 2 royalties, the Minister of Health, different very high ranking officials of Jordan come and attend this event. This was a success. Having a gala dinner, and not having any smoke in it. This was also a success. So we need to celebrate our successes all the time. In 2020, we were awarded the World No Tobacco Day Award by the WHO. I think this is something that all who work in tobacco control look for. Tobacco control itself is a very, very frustrating business, let's say. In Jordan or in the Arab world in general, we are literally swimming against the current. And you hear it on every single day. You cannot have tourism without smoking. You can't have this without smoking. Shisha is the bread and butter of our society. This is wrong. Therefore, it is really frustrating when we work this work. But being recognized by the WHO really is something that we enjoy. Finally, being in tobacco control, it opened many new opportunities for me. Whether I met wonderful people who think like me, I got better education, I learned so many things, new skills, again, new skills, I can't stress this enough. And getting the graduate certificate from Johns Hopkins was also something that I really appreciated. I continue my education, I continue my fight, and I hope that I will see the change. And I will say, I will use this make history from the FINA World Championships for Swimming in Budapest. Make history, let's be part of history and be the maker of it. Thank you very much.